So I guess if the camera's on, I'll say that we're gonna open our 5 o'clock meeting for budgets. The first one on the agenda is the public building maintenance for FY '21 budget, and presenting that will be Mr. Jeremy Carrier.
Evening.
Let me just open my computer, because I got all mine here. I probably should have done this earlier, but I was doing other things. Okay, did I get a 7 budgets? And we're using your revised budget, right, Jeremy?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure, because I got 2 of them in here. I just want, we talking apples and apples when we talk it, that's all.
And hopefully I have the correct one too.
Okay. As far as your particular budget goes, this is the first time you're presenting it, and the people just voted this basic department back into town.
Correct.
It's been out for a long time. So, we're gonna, I expect to see some changes fluctuating, because there's no trend yet.
Right, yeah, we're still trying to adjust to what the
Right.
job's entailing and the details for that, for
Right.
all finances.
The only thing I had down here, because, you know, I write down everything about everything. I did notice your overall budget is going up 12% this year, as compared to last year.
Right.
Okay, and again, that could be part of the moving in period with the new people and the equipment, the clothing and everything else. I'll let you explain that. Go ahead.
The actual budget's only going up 5%.
5%?
12% is payroll,
The new adjustment.
is wages.
I had overall 12%. Where did I get that?
I don't know.
But you're right, it's 4%.
Sorry.
I wrote down 12, and wages are going up 20%. On the,
Okay.
but
That's okay.
I wrote down
That's
4.
okay, just,
Yeah, I made a mistake, what can I say?
no, that's okay, I'm just
Yep.
curious.
And I got wages up 21, but it's 20, so I might have done these numbers off the old budget,
Could very well,
because they did send a revised one out.
yes.
Because I did notice the overtime was going up 54%. And that's one of the big questions I had as far as overtime. It's still at 54% on this one.
We're looking at what we've actually done the fiscal year to date, going forward, if that kind of carries forward with that. Also, again, because there's also an increase in the personnel versus what there was before for that position. There's always a possibility that could go down if we don't have as many snowfall or
Right.
emergencies. Unfortunately, it could go the other way as well, but. we're
But you
predicting kind of on the
really
upside.
need at least 3 years worth of data to do a trend.
Right, and that's the problem right now with that, is we don't have.
You don't
a
have that.
pattern for it, because it's new
Right.
for that.
You're just, when you're basing off this past year.
Correct.
This is just talking the budget. He doesn't have anything in the budget for trees or anything, for planting of trees or anything?
No.
Okay. I wasn't sure, because we had discussed some of that before.
We weren't sure if we were going to do the second round of MVP
That's in April.
to be able to start doing tree planting.
Okay.
Okay. I hate to use taxpayers' dollars,
Right with
okay,
you.
to do that. I'd rather wait and see if there, because I know there's some programs out there to bring back the American elm.
Yep.
I believe there's another program for, what's the other variety of tree they've been pushing to?
Oak, ash.
Ash, the ash tree is the other one that they've been pushing, and I'm sure at some point there'll be some grant money to assist us in being able to plant those type of trees.
Along with the state wanting to lower the greenhouse gas emission, the most inexpensive way to do it is with trees.
Yep, so.
That's all I really had for you, Jeremy, in as much as there's not a whole lot to discuss when you just started. Because the budget, as far as the equipment and stuff, was based upon what the town past used, and when they split it up, they split up the equipment, but now you got two entities requiring some of the same equipment.
Right. Plus wear and tear and everything.
Right.
Yeah, for replacement.
You did show me the blades that were split down the middle on the mowers, and they should have been replaced, and all stuff like that, so I mean, I do understand all that. Do you have any questions for me?
I don't have any questions. Didn't know if there was any more things that you wanted.
I was gonna ask
details
Glenn.
of, or-
No, like I said, I mean, this is really your real first budget that we base things on. We just based off this prior year.
Yeah,
Yeah, we had some things that, also, under contracts, there'll be a little bit more increase because say like on fire extinguishers, it's the 6-year inspections on
Right.
those, where over half of them are due. So it's an increase over what the normal would be for the year. So again, we have to trend with that and try to adjust, change down a little bit the following
and
year.
I think
Things
I
like
did
that.
notice that you're minus 100% on contract services, so I assume you're doing the work yourself or something?
Yeah, we're looking to actually have a position that would be in-house instead of contracting out, so that way we would have a little bit more control over that.
Okay, well, what position, the janitorial position, if I remember? right.
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
And that also attributes to some of the overtime increase because that person additional labor may be working overtime.
Yeah, we get 2,080 hours for a man year. If you've got that much overtime, no sense spending it. You
Yeah.
just get another person.
And the issue is we want to be able to try and get caught up on stripping and waxing the floors, bringing them back, hopefully,
Yeah.
if we can. Things of that nature.
Yeah.
Just so the board knows also, there is 2 capital requests that were put in.
Mhm.
One for a large batwing mower, gang mower, okay? The one we have now is, we've spent, I want to say, about $3,000 worth of repairs to keep it going over this year. So
Okay.
we're looking to purchase a new one that's about 110,000,
I believe with the increase after January would be 114,500.
114,000. And then we're looking to buy a transit cargo van so that we could move the maintenance and the rug cleaner, the floor
Yeah.
strippers that
Yeah,
undercover instead
Yeah.
of in the back of a
Truck.
pickup truck. So-
Because he doesn't have anything with
Also to
cover.
be used when we have voting equipment, things that have to go back and forth to the schools. We don't really have a covered bed at this time,
Right.
so
no,
the cost of voting equipment is quite expensive if we had an incident with those, so. And again, that other position would be more of a semi-skilled laborer to help with the painting, floors, everything in general, so we get a little bit more of enhanced deep cleaning on things
Yeah.
than
good.
what's there now.
I take it the transit's gonna be in addition to the current vehicles that.
Correct.
The
Yes.
mower, are we got anything to trade in for that?
I want to trade in the
Yeah,
current
the
Batwing,
Jacobson, yeah.
but David is giving me a little pushback on it, so.
Because he uses it to trim the sides of the streets or something?
I don't know what he uses it for, but personally, I'd just rather get rid of it. There's been some pushback, well, keep it in case the new one breaks, you still have some. I'm not sure the new one breaks, it breaks.
You're gonna get more in for it during a trade-in than you are trying to sell it outright.
Well, not necessarily, because we've been going out on the auction site, and we've been doing better on the auction site than we've been getting for trade-ins, to be honest with you.
Oh, okay.
We got, for example, one of David's old pickup trucks, we got $14,000 in auction. They were only gonna give us $5,000 in trade.
Oh, okay, that
Yeah.
sounds good.
So we are trying our best to get the best price available.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and it would be one less piece of equipment that, you use it while the other one's broken down, then that one breaks, and then you're putting repairs back into it. There'd be no sense to keep plugging away.
This
Putting
isn't
it to
really into the
maintaining
budget
two-
side.
two-
Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I know you said eventually Jeremy's office will be in downstairs at the old library.
yep.
How about where's he gonna garage all this stuff?
We've already talked about that. We have the pavilion area,
Yes,
okay?
behind the old library?
Behind the old library. What I want to do is, for some of the storage records for planning board and conservation, I want to pick up a couple Conex boxes.
Mhm.
I want to pick up additional Connex boxes to clear out the pavilion, to start making room to be able to store some of its equipment
Okay.
undercover, and to create a work area
Work,
for Jeremy to be able to maintain or do work undercover for anything he has to do for the buildings.
because at one time, wasn't it the veterans when they moved?
Right now, I'm under the impression the garage is staying there.
Okay, I thought I heard at one time they were gonna move it.
That was the impression, they wanted to knock it down and construct a new one on the back nine. The issue became is, I think there's an issue with, because there's still some police evidence stored on the second floor of that garage, and they don't have a place to put it.
So they need the storage.
Yes, so
What
I
about
think
oth-
they sort of changed their ideas a little bit. on what they
What about another Connex box for them? I'm just asking.
I'm planning on purchasing probably 4 Connex boxes. I know Jeremy needs a little more for his mowers and stuff. Maybe clean out a couple of them that are up there. I don't know what's in them. I think
Yeah.
fire department has one that they have old equipment off of one of their, I think it's off the old engine 3. So maybe once we get the new pumper, whatever we don't need, we get rid of and
Yeah.
open up that one too.
Yeah, there's 3 or 4 already up there, the
Yeah,
safety complex.
but basically that's what I would like to do is get a few more Connex boxes, give us the storage space available and move forward from there.
Well, it makes sense to use, I mean, that space that we can use
Yeah,
instead of just storing paper.
And that's what I'm hoping to
Yeah.
do. So Jeremy and I have been talking about it quite a bit, so.
is there anything else you guys been talking about we should know?
The only other thing is, to be honest with you, we would probably be putting the planner conservation agent up there. Try and create an office on the upstairs area. What I would like to do then, I've already been talking with Comcast about increasing the speed of the internet there and bringing in a phone system there.
Mhm.
And then we'd have to do a little bit of work, I think, to secure the offices downstairs from the public meetings that are out there.
Yeah, there was this talk at one time where the bathroom is downstairs, to put a door across that to the back, so the employees could have the back.
I may do it, the other doorway behind that, because if you're having public meetings,
You need the
you
bathroom.
may
down.
want to have the bathroom.
No, that's what I was saying,
Yeah.
put it toward the back of the building,
Right,
so the public can access, and then the employees could open the door and go to the bathroom.
yes,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. That was what we're
Yeah.
planning on doing, so,
I'm just
Seems feasible.
wondering,
okay.
yeah, I don't see where the heat would make a difference, because where we got that mini split now,
Well, the mini split, you basically got.
in the office area.
And they can leave it open during the day to
Yeah.
heat the other area, you know.
Yeah.
It'd just be at nighttime that, hey, maybe we have to get a space heater for, if there's a second meeting there.
Yeah, I was just thinking off the top.
Yeah.
You come, that's all.
So, okay.
You got any more, Glenn?
No, I'm good.
Well, thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's good.
And 5:20, we got 3 more minutes for the veterans. I leave that open to Jen, use my own.
But I will say that Jeremy has been doing a good job.
I think he's been doing-
Coppolis has been doing an excellent job.
Yeah.
You know, and Parker Nunes has been doing an excellent job,
I think all 3 have been doing an excellent job,
okay? So,
and they all work well, good together, too.
yes, yes.
Is there anything else you want, since we're here waiting for the next person?
No, I'll just go over some of the stuff, you know, and some of the stuff with Jeremy is, you know, we went through and did a true inspection of this building, and we installed some more strobes. We installed some more smoke detectors. There was no strobes in any of the bathrooms. There was no strobes upstairs. We were short, I think, 2, Jeremy, we were short 2 smoke detectors upstairs?
4.
4?
4
The
upstairs?
offices and the hallway was short, should have every third.
Why don't you come back up for a second? So we got those installed. When Jeremy went through and had the sprinkler systems pressure tested, there was something that we needed to do every,
Gonna do the 5-year internal checks, so under NFPA 25, that's supposed to be done and hadn't been done. So we're just trying to get current with all the inspections to get us up to speed.
Yeah, we don't need to be fined, we'd rather pay them.
And, you know, for life safety itself, we
Yeah,
just wanna make sure
absolutely.
everybody's covered
Yeah.
and safe. I don't want trouble with that.
and then the other big thing is OSHA is requiring us to have plans for every building, evacuation plans, how we're gonna deal with emergencies. We are using Jeff McPherson as a consultant along with to train Jeremy on getting these plans together.
Okay.
And hopefully our fire chief will be able to get all the MSDS sheets together for us so we can just be in compliance with everything that's been dumped on us now by the state and the feds.
Okay.
So, that's part of the increase of the cost that Jeremy had to do for his budget too, so.
Mhm.
Just trying to make sure everything's being done according to state and federal law. So,
And again, it seems like big sticker shock at the front, but once you start it and then maintain it, it should ease down a little bit, so then we get that 3-year
Right.
baseline, see
Yeah.
where we're at. And
Well,
again,
one
depending
thing
on
I-
regulation changes.
One thing I probably should have said in the beginning, but I didn't, because I didn't think of it, to be honest with you. Glenn, remember the last time we did budgets, all three were in a different format? If you notice this time when we do the budgets, they're gonna all be exactly the same format. So it's easier for us to read between actual and budgeted from year, to see if the department head, when he presents his actual budget, how close is he to an actual? And
Right.
then, you know, for the last 2 years, and then the percent of change from this current year to the next proposed year. So I've asked Chris to implement that for all departments starting next year. So it's all the same.
It's an easier format if everybody follows the same. thing.
Exactly, exactly. It's easier format and it's easier for us to look at the percent of change. We can, you know, like on a history, we now have not only the budgeted amount for FY18, we have the actual amount.
Mhm.
FY19, we have the budgeted and we have the actual. FY20, we only have the budget because it's not over yet. So then we're looking at compare, but it gives us more information to compare, to see trends.
was there anything else that we had planned for that we need to catch up on yours? Can't remember.
Just under there for contracts, like I said, that's why one of the big increases, again, was kind of with the fire systems and things, we hadn't had the inspections done at each individual place the way they were supposed to, so that's why we were increased on that budget line as well.
And we're also doing annual testing of all the fire devices in this building.
Okay.
So,
What's
and I
going to
think we
cost?
found that some weren't working at the highway department when they tested.
Correct, we had 2 heads right off that weren't, and then also horn strobes. It's like in their wash bay, it was actually full of water and had been corroded out, so that had been changed out, same as the 2 heads, so that it was fully functional for that. So that's why in there it's proposed, because you have the actual contracts and everything that'll be here. So testing is just $985 between 3 of the buildings. So again, that brings up our level of contracts. And then also for the regular monitoring, to make sure that all that's in the contracts. So,
Are we gonna talk about the DEP notice about the safety complex at the next meeting?
Jeremy's been taking care of that.
Okay.
That's the DEP notice we sent to Linda Timms
okay.
regarding the failure to submit a sample.
Yeah.
They had missed a sodium level reading that was on there on the last one. They didn't check it off on the chain of custody paperwork.
Mhm.
So their lab didn't actually run the results for that. So when Linda Timms comes in this month, she's gonna pull that. We're actually gonna put up a notice, it has to be up for a minimum of 72 hours, to show that we had failed that and that we were now gonna do that as a change of a plan of correction
Okay.
for it. So by doing that and showing copies of the posting and the dates that it's put up, we'll be in compliance.
Yeah, 'cause I did
So
see
it's not
that in the
big.
reading material that we got written up by DEP over there.
We're already on it.
Like, you know, Chris, I do read it all.
And just so the board knows, I have been having Jeremy going to try and maybe take the test to become a certified water operator. Because we have all these
What-
requirements with our public water supplies.
Right.
I think that'd be a good idea.
I think that's an excellent idea for the simple reason is right now, the only trend we have for the condition of the wells is the public wells. So those are the only ones that's required to be tested. Myself, I've been testing mine every 2 years and I see the levels going up. So I'm getting ready to start testing mine every year. But I've talked to some people and they talk to me about the water pipeline. They say, well, I never tested my well water. I said, that's up to you.
If it tastes good, it's okay.
Well, not necessarily true, not necessarily true.
All right.
Anything else you wanted to share with the board, or?
Not that I don't.
Or you just want to get out of the hot seat and go
No,
sit in the back of the room?
good.
I know that.
Do
Hey,
you have
he's
any other
ch-
questions or anything? No?
No, like I said, it's looking for trends, and you can't look for trends when there's no prior years. And do capital improvement, are we gonna have a capital improvement briefing from them on what's coming up, or how is that gonna be done?
If you want, I can just give one out of board meeting, because I know what they approved and didn't. approve.
We have no idea, right, Glenn?
Well,
We have
Well,
no
we like
idea.
to keep you in the back.
you just let us know when one of the meetings is fine.
Yeah, we can make it an action item for a meeting on the agenda. That's-
Oh, no, no more action items, will you? God.
I like to track them.
Even when I'm not here, you give me action items.
That's right, I like to track them, make sure it gets done.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Okay, next we have is the veterans budget. Chief, you wanna come on up for your veterans budget? Let me see, I got this one here.
Actually, gentlemen, if you can just spare me a quick moment.
Yeah,
Sure.
I hope that one mic is catching everything.
Should be,
Okay.
if you want, maybe post, angle it that way, if you want. Rather than use-
No, we need you in there too, so it's centered as best we can.
I'll just speak louder.
You know, you can always move down a chair if you want.
Oh, then they'll think I'm a selectman.
Then we can move down a chair towards you. And for people who are watching this, Miss Silver is sick tonight. That is the reason she is not here.
My apologies, gentlemen.
Okay.
There's no apology. If you gotta do something, you gotta do it.
Chief, how you doing?
Evening.
Evening.
Was that an oxygen tank you got with you?
What?
You're gonna talk that much, you need that much water?
Gotta get hydrated. Never know when there's gonna be an incident. Ah, sounded good. Okay.
On your veterans budget, I see you've gone down 2% since last year.
Yeah, you did.
Okay, what he said. Um,
Okay. The only question I really had about the veterans budget overall, you are going down 90% on office supplies.
yes, okay, so the veterans budget has been, a new process for me. When I came in, things weren't necessarily put in the right places that they should have been by the previous veterans agent. I've had to take the last 2 fiscal years to try to read this budget and understand where the money should be going. If you'll notice, there are line items on there that say medications or doctors or hospital, okay? Those are things that, some of the bills that were submitted by some of the clients weren't necessarily being put in the appropriate locations. So I've worked with Chris, and he's been very supportive in helping me make the our line items match what the state's line items are, with the exception of the couple that are ours that we are gonna own, to enable me to better track the money. So the reason for the 90% change was I was finding that I don't need as much in the office supply budget. And so I placed that into another area that I feel we're gonna use substantially more money, whether it be, you know,
The only thing that went up was fuel that I saw in your budget.
right, but look at the amount. I mean,
$900.
yeah, it's based on the amount. The percentages, it doesn't matter, it's the amount that matters in this.
Right, because the 900 from office supplies went on up to fuel.
Right, exactly. So it was a 90% reduction in office supplies, but it was a smaller amount relative to fuel.
Right.
And that's an area where we typically pay a larger amount each month.
I know the senior center does quite a bit too, to help.
I'm sorry?
The senior center does quite a bit in that area too, with the seniors in our town.
Yep. Yep, and ours is, how we issue money is based on calculations by the state through the Boston office of the Department of Veteran Services for the state. We use a program that we punch in numbers, and then they tell us what a veteran is eligible for. There's a couple of ways the money works here. One is what a veteran or a client is entitled to each month specifically. Fuel benefits, ordinary benefits, things like that. The areas that tend to be more in flux is the medications, doctors, and hospitals. Those are based on co-pays and medications, which are always going to change month to month. So we know in general what we're going to be paying in fuel and ordinary benefits. Everything else is what it's a roll of the dice. Now, I will say that whatever we pay out, we generally get 75% of that back. So as much as the budget for this year, the request is $72,250. Approximately 75% of that will come back to us. And I say approximately because some of that is stuff that we own, and some of it is certain items can be 100% reimbursable.
And just so the people, if they're watching this, understand, then they say, come back to us. It goes back into the general fund,
Correct.
goes back into the general fund, and then the people decide to do with the money at town meetings. So when they say it comes back to the people, not just the department.
John, how many clients are you currently serving?
I'm currently serving 5 clients. However, I have had a significant increase in interest in people coming to me. I anticipate at least 3, if not 4 more coming in pretty soon. Because a lot of this is based on their income, I can't predict for sure, but I believe we're still going to be fine operating in this budget based on what the knowns are.
I would say you're on target with them going up because of the baby boomer era, which a lot of us are in. And there's a lot more veterans back then, and a lot of them were drafted, so you didn't have a choice, it wasn't volunteer. And they're all reaching that age now. So I can only see that going up. If people don't know it, the Social Security only went up 1.69% this year. Then they took it back in Medicare, so it was a wash.
Yeah, it's a little weird how
Yeah.
how it gets calculated. Fortunately, Boston's good enough that they give us pretty good guides to keep ahead of it. It just takes a little bit to get used to the changes. But I will point out that, again, as I said, I requested 72. If you look at the actuals in past years, we haven't really come close to it. So in the end, I think we're even if we had an increase, we're going to be fine.
I say, it's less than the 2020 budget. Or you can call it a wash with 2% if you want. You got any questions, Glenn?
No, I think it's straightforward, and like you said, you know, usually the actual budget is,
Yep.
I won't say half, or maybe, you know, a little bit more than half, maybe not 2/3, but, you know, in between there, so.
Yeah, and basically, this is more, a lot of it's upfront money.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't have anything on the veterans. You want to move on to the next one?
Sure, I'm good.
Okay, make
You
sure.
good?
I'm good. I thought I saw Chris wanting to
Oh,
start to
Chris?
say something.
No, just a look he has.
Staring out the window, cars going behind you.
Oh, well,
You want to move on to the ambulance? Is that the next one, is the ambulance? Yep. Do you want to describe it, or do you want me to ask my questions first?
I can give you a brief overview of it.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just trying to get my paperwork in order here. Okay, so, going right down my budget, I'm gonna skip over the wages for the moment. Some of that's gonna come up with contractual stuff, so I'm gonna move right into the operational budget, which is, in your line items, will be 61225-5240-392 to 5581.
All the ones with a number 4 next to them.
Number 4? Oh, no, okay, I see.
Type.
These ones here,
Yeah.
yep.
Okay.
Sorry, I have mine color coded.
I found 5581, I just gotta work my way back.
Okay, so, not a significant change in operating costs, other than some things that we've identified. In vehicle repairs, you know, as apparatus get older, you know, we need to keep up with maintenance, plus costs of certain types of maintenance goes up. Because we don't have engine 3, but we now have the squad coming into service, and then hopefully in just a few months, just before the start of the new fiscal year, I anticipate the mini pumper, the pumper tanker to come into play. That in general is going to keep our vehicle repairs down. However, I did increase by $400 just because I'm anticipating some things that may need to be done in engine 2. There's a repair that's going to need to be done on that coming up that we found. But again, that's actually a small.
Small number.
Oh, excuse me. I'm thinking of the wrong thing. I'm on the fire department. You're on ambulance. Let me rephrase that. The ambulance is getting a little older, and it's going to need some repairs. Sorry.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw 25%, but
Yeah,
20, but it's only $400.
Right. Small numbers there.
Right.
Educational reimbursement. So we did a significant reduction there, and part of that is based on the part of the reimbursement that the full-timers get for some of their qualifications. So we have, based on the contract, as long as it's signed, will see less of a need in that area. So we'll be putting $4,000 back into that, so about 57% increase back into it But we still need to leave some money in there for, there's part-timers that need education stuff and whatnot. Collection services, we increased $750. Understand that this is money that we pay out to a company that does our billing. This is based on a percentage. So as much as we may be paying $23,500 or whatever it's going to end up being, it's based on what we actually return back in receipts.
Does that count any of the money that we, when we do the reconciliation of the bills not paid? Or is this billing altogether different than that?
This billing is on everything that is collected, not
That-
anything that we write off.
Right, but if we send it to collection agency, it will be,
Then at some point they do, well, see, what happens, you send it to collection, they take a third right off the top. You
Right.
give us 2/3. So that's where they get their fee for the collection fees. This is for anything that doesn't get turned over to collection, that is collected through the normal course of operation.
similar to like we do the EV charges.
Right, I believe that's 4%?
Yeah, I
They
believe
get,
it is.
I think it's 4% they get of the monthly gross collections,
Okay.
okay?
Another reason why I did a slight increase on that is I anticipate EMS call volumes to continue to rise, which is going to mean that as much as we're getting in more money, we're going to need to pay this money out for their services. So it's got to be on a line item.
Do you have a particular reason why you think the EMS calls are gonna go up?
Trending. This was the first year, 2019 was the first year that we actually saw a slight reduction in call volume. I can actually give you those numbers, I have them with me.
No, I don't need to know.
Oh, okay, but the trends have shown over the years that EMS call volume is increasing.
I think in the town of Granby, it's gonna start going up dramatically because we got more and more seniors
Yep,
in our town.
absolutely.
This is becoming a senior town. As of 2017, 25% of the population was over age 60.
And the other 75% are under.
That's right, but 25% are over, those are the ones that's probably calling the most. That's all I'm saying. And I can only see that number going up.
Yeah, I agree. So the calls are gonna go up. Absolutely. Moving on down, there's no changes in many of the other line items until you get down to office supplies. I did an increase in office supplies of $900 because what I did is I took that from the fire budget on maintenance of equipment, because maintenance of equipment really should be identified with fire equipment, fire items. The copy machine that we have is an office machine, so I just felt it more appropriate to move it into a line item that it belongs in.
I would have done 50-50, but that's me.
That just gets confusing when it comes to doing the bills. It's splitting it just gets very cumbersome.
Because I like to look at the cost of the specific department, and that's why I said 50-50.
Moving down to the next line item, medical supplies. This is an interesting situation that we've recently come into. We had at one point in time, actually up until very recently, when we used a lot of medical supplies, we would obtain some free medical supplies from Bay State Hospital. It was something that they did for quite some time. However, we're really the last town that they've been doing that for, and they're cutting back. Just like healthcare, everybody's cutting back. This is a line item we're not gonna have a choice but to increase.
Do we, what do you use, majority Holyoke or Cooley Dickinson, or is it
It's a
split?
mix, mostly Holyoke, then it would be Bay State. At that point, it's a mix between either Cooley or Mercy, and then Wing. But Bay State's been the only one to do our medical supplies. We do get medications from Holyoke, that's not an issue. But it's the medical supplies, the day-to-day usage. And so unfortunately, we are gonna have to increase that.
If you're not getting it for free anymore, it's gonna cost money.
Exactly. And it's not like we can't say, no, we're not gonna buy bandages
Right.
and things.
No, I can remember when I was running on the rig, the more you brought to a particular hospital, the more they were bound to give you.
Yeah, there used to be a period of
Yeah.
time where it was either a 1-for-1 or sometimes, you know, you
Yeah.
might,
We trade out.
yeah,
We use this much supplies on this person, they would give it to us and they charge it to them on their bill.
essentially. And that just is going to the wayside. Like I said, we're the last ones really to see the benefit from Bay State. You know, they've already given us the heads up that it's going to stop. Moving on down, nothing. Bring us to cardiac service agreement. So as you may recall, we did agree, the town voted, I should say, to allow us the purchase of a second cardiac monitor, as our previous second cardiac monitor was no longer, it was obsolete. We couldn't be used with equipment. Plus, we're looking at the purchase of another AED this year. As such, we're going to need to pay for service contracts and agreements. This also covers the new power load system that we have. We were able to get the power load system for nothing, which is a $20,000 piece of equipment from the company, because they were unable to fix an issue we had with our stretcher. So they gave us their demo unit, but we are going to still have to service it. So we had to consider that. And that's it on operating costs. Any questions on that?
On operating costs, you've covered what I had on here. I guess basically all I have left is concerning the wage part.
Okay, and it's, I can go through some of those.
Well, one of the
Can I
questions,
just ask a quick
you
question?
can add anything you want.
You mentioned the ambulance is getting old. What's the projected useful life of the ambulance?
It's typically 10 years. When I say old, it's a relatively new ambulance still, but it's the most highly used vehicle in the department, so the maintenance is gonna go up. We may need more frequent oil changes or replacement of tires, or you know, other things that may need to go on. So it's just projecting ahead for possibilities. Also pointing out that we found that we did have some unanticipated costs come up this year for maintenance that we just didn't anticipate, that needed to be done. Brakes, things of that nature. You know, we didn't anticipate it because we didn't really know how much the ambulance was gonna get used, and the more it
Right.
gets used, we can't predict some of those things.
It's unscheduled maintenance.
Right.
Now, on your scheduled maintenance, you keep track of it on a year, so, like, I'm used to keep looking at it from a yearly basis and watching the equipment go up, and if it reaches the 70% of support, I say it's time for a new one. I don't know if you look at it that way or not. In other words, if they can repair or overhaul for 70%, then otherwise we buy a new one.
So I'm hesitant to look at it that way, only because, truth be told, moving forward, we're hoping to get a second ambulance for the town down the line when, you know, we see some funds in the enterprise fund. And when we have two ambulances, one, it enables us to be able to respond to more calls or reduce our downtime. But then we can cycle our stuff a little bit more and increase the longevity of the ambulance. 10 years is a state requirement,
Okay.
okay? And I don't know many places that go beyond that anyway.
Well,
And how many years is ours now?
16, I think. 16, our ambulance?
It's 4 years old.
Okay, yeah.
We have one more payment to make on
Say in 6 more years, according to the state, we have to buy a new ambulance.
Yeah, but I'm hoping to, again, do it sooner so that we have a second ambulance in town because we're getting busy and I don't want to lose calls to other towns. Operating costs. How did I do that? I mean, excuse me, capital outlay. Okay, so first line item is the equipment. I am asking for a significant increase in this line item because we are looking to purchase 2 single-year purchases. One of them being CPR training equipment, which we had got a quote for $4,000. The American Red Cross has come out with new guidelines and requirements. And any of the training aids that we're using today must have sensors in them that allow us to know and give us an indication if somebody is performing CPR correctly. So that's not really something we can not consider. If we're gonna be able to provide CPR training to the town, the residents, the employees.
I think the easiest way to explain that, because I go through that every year, is if you don't have the information and the data to back it up, you can't issue the certification to the individuals.
Yes, exactly. So, and our stuff is just old now, so it's not meeting the standards. The other single year purchase increase for that line item is another AED. So the fire department pretty much oversees all of the medical stuff for the town. The police department recently came into a situation where they determined that they didn't have enough AEDs, so we took one of ours that isn't on a primary piece and moved it over to them. But we're gonna need to replace it.
How many AED do we have in the town and where are they?
There's one here, 2, I don't know how many are at the school off the top of my head, but 1, 2, 3, 4, plus the ones we have in our department, which is another 4 plus 3 in the fire department. I mean, police department, so 8, 9, 10, 11-ish.
11? So there's at least one in every public building,
Yes,
to include the old library.
no.
I didn't see it one day, that's why I asked the question.
If you want one there, I can,
Well, we're gonna be putting people in downstairs.
okay, then I might need to put in for a second one for that, so that might go up again.
No, I'm just saying that we are.
Yep, no, it's something, I honestly, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, and I've used them, I know you've used them, and they are a great device.
Yep, absolutely. So, that was really it on, capital outlay. I can go back to wages and discuss some of the stuff that, we do have some changes on with, the lower portion of it, meaning the per diems and the call stuff. Per diem wages, okay, so I'm looking at an increase for that because we're finding that the per diem program that we've implemented is quite successful. And so as a result, we haven't had to turn too many calls over to mutual aid or have intercepts and whatnot.
Can you explain the per diem program?
Sure. So what the per diems are is they are part-time employees, if you will, that we hire to come in and work. Okay, let me just take a step back. If you were to look at the full-time schedule, it's based on an 8-day work week. And the way the full-timers operate is 4 days on, 4 days off. We have now added a night shift for 4 of those days of a full-timer. That's left us with 4 evenings uncovered. Having call paramedics like we did in the past is no longer feasible. Everybody is hurting for paramedics right now. And the only way we were able to get around that and provide the appropriate medical services for the community was to implement a per diem program where we bring paramedics in from whether the private sector, some are firefighters on other communities that sit in the station, and they're there for the purpose of responding to EMS calls as a paramedic at night. And this has allowed us to maintain the service for the community. So I am looking for a little increase there because I'm hoping that there's going to be an increase in the use of some per diems here and there.
When is the last time we increased the rate on the ambulance going out to a person?
Year ago, I believe it was. We did that at a town at a select board meeting that I did bring forward that we were increasing the rates. Every year,
Yeah, Things go up.
ComStar sends out a thing of what the average is. I was planning on doing another one next year. I didn't do it this year because I didn't want to try to increase things too much to the public and have them free. But
well, we gotta
Every-
look at it this way, I mean, we're never gonna make a profit with an ambulance. So the question is, how much can you absorb at an expense?
right. In talking with other departments, they average about every 3 years that they do an increase.
And we're about the same price as them?
We've done it on an average. I don't take individual departments
Well,
around us. I take a form that ComStar sends to us that gives me their top 50 communities and what the rates are for them. I compare it to what we are, and I try to get somewhere close to that or right at what the average is. So we are pretty much on par average-wise. But in following what a lot of other departments are doing, I figured every 3 years is a fair time to review. On-call EMT run hours, I am asking for an increase of $1,900 there. Again, simply because we're seeing more calls. The call volume is going up. So we need to account for that. Wages, on-call EMT, this is a line item that has kind of been in some flux, and when I actually sat down and ran the numbers, the way we operate call EMTs is we have 2 people on duty during the evening to respond to EMS calls with the paramedic at $30 as a nightly stipend.
So it's 2 EMTs plus a full-time paramedic,
Or per diem.
or a per diem paramedic?
Right.
Okay.
And so when I kind of figured it out based on 365 days, I wasn't actually having the amount needed for the 365 days for 2 people. Now, I will say that we don't always have 2 people, but we right now have been.
Well, if we run 2 people during the day, my question would be, why do we run 3 people at night?
And the best answer I can give you on that, Jay, is that's just how the department has run over the years. Where we come into an issue, and this is more of a safeguard than anything, is we run into issues where if people are at home, responding from home, and we're expecting them to have a pager on and respond to calls from home, okay, if they miss that call, we got some problems. If I have 2 people that are on call, and at least one of them are gonna get there, that's a safeguard.
I thought they were in the
paramedic is.
the paramedic is the only one that's actually in the station.
Right. Our on-call EMTs are coming from home. I've had instances where I've had 2 people on call, and, maybe one of them doesn't make it in time for the call or whatever. I just prefer in this particular case to be safe than sorry.
Well, it definitely helps out with availability.
Absolutely.
And they get $30 per hour, right?
Nope, $30 per evening
Per evening.
that
Okay.
they are scheduled for. That's just the stipend to be on call. They
Right.
get their hourly wage, which is that other line item I was just speaking of. They get a 2-hour minimum for EMS calls.
And they get per hour?
No,
No,
they get 2-hour minimum for when they get called out at night.
right, what is the rate of that?
Oh, so for an EMT, it's $19.24. And that rate hasn't changed in a while, so. But $19.24 an hour for when they 2-hour minimum per call. And that's about that for the call and per diems. Any questions on the wages?
Oh, if you want. Yeah, the overtime wages went up 25% over last year.
Okay, so when I looked at the 75-25 split that we do to pay the wages for the personnel, I went back and I calculated based on sick, an expected amount of sick days, vacation days, holidays, personal days, things of that nature, what we would need as a general number. My previous budget, I didn't do a 75-25 split on that. I don't know how I missed it, but honestly, I did. When I went back this year and I redid the numbers, I realized that I was shorting the EMS budget at the sacrifice of the fire budget because I didn't have a proper 25-75 split.
So you're saying 75% of the wages go to the firefighter, 25% would go to the EMT if it's the same person?
It's for the full-timers, it's the budget. So let's say they make, I'm just gonna use some lay numbers. Let's just say they make $100 a week, okay, and I gotta pay them $100. 25% of their time is doing fire calls, 75% of their, excuse me, let me rephrase that. 75% of our calls may be EMS and 25 fire. What they actually spend for work is 75% of their time they're doing fire duties, 25% of their time doing EMS duties. So that's why we split the budget 75-25 based on the time that they spend doing work during the day.
What we did, Jay, was this.
Yep.
When we were looking at, instead of giving a tax override subsidy to the ambulance department of $187,000, I asked the chief to go back over the last 2 years, over a 2-year period, and tell me how much of their 12-hour day was spent on ambulance calls and how much was spent on fire duties. When he came back with the numbers, it came to like 72,
Yeah, some
28.
weird percent, yeah.
okay? But then, as we tracked it the next year, it became more like 75-25 as you kept adding to the history, okay? Just like you said, the trend analysis. So our trend analysis shows that when a full-timer is sitting there at his desk, 75% of the time, on average, is spent doing fire-related work. 25% of his time is spent on ambulance-related work. So we take their regular 12-hour pay and break it out 75% to the fire department and 25% to the ambulance department to properly allocate the wages that they're earning.
Now, when you come out with actual figures and actual hours and what the people performed, do you account for if we're getting more ambulance calls than we're getting firefighting calls, the time the person spends on the ambulance, is that captured for the actual amount of time so we can use it next year?
What happens is he tracks it every year.
Yep.
And every year, we're looking at that percentage again to, it may end up going, it'll be 30% at some point, it may be 70%, if the ambulance trend keeps going up and up and up. We're going based upon is call run volume for a year, how many hours is spent on a call, based upon two people are usually on the call, so if it's a 2-hour call, and so we figure there's 4 hours that are spent on ambulance, where or 2 hours is spent on ambulance, and the other 10 hours is spent on fire. If there's 2 calls, it changes. So we're trying to adjust the percentage every year based upon our actual numbers of the previous year.
I can understand that, but it's hard for me to understand if the majority of our calls are ambulance, why the majority of the expense is laid on the fire.
Because our calls, our runs is ambulance. However, they're doing inspections, they're doing burn permits, they're doing maintenance on the fire apparatus. They're filling in all their other time. They're not constantly out 12 hours a day on ambulance runs.
No, I wouldn't expect any, I hope not.
But the issue is that he looks at the morning routine. It takes, 3 hours to go through all the vehicle, or 2 hours to go through all the vehicles.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Okay, so 2 hours of the day is already taken up just going through the equipment to make sure it works.
And that's both ambulance
No,
and fire.
that's fire, all our
Okay.
fire apparatus. Okay, so that is a fire expense.
Okay,
Someone comes in and wants to talk about, pull a oil tank permit. That's fire, that's not ambulance. Somebody comes in and wants a burn permit. Fire, not ambulance. Someone needs an inspection, or someone look at the plans for an addition to make sure they're putting the smokes in the right places. Fire, not ambulance. A lot of the fire stuff is paperwork, for lack of a better word, okay? Paperwork, permits, things of that nature. Ambulance is basically getting in the rig and responding to a call somewhere.
yeah, I understand that, but I know there's paperwork with ambulance as well.
Right, and that's taken into account for one person. That would be the
Lead.
director, the ambulance director, who deals with a lot of the paperwork. Okay?
Yeah, the other thing too, Jay, is it's important to note that when we changed over to this new report writing system that we did this past year for PCRs, patient care reports, the problems we were running into is it was taking us 2 hours to do an EMS call. And it was because we weren't with the 21st century with technology in this town, and we needed to come back here, and it was a nightmare trying to do reports. Since we have done this new PCR program, we've essentially cut that time in half down to an hour. Now, when I say an hour, that's a flexible hour, because it depends on what hospital they're going to, what procedures need to be done. So that may increase, that may decrease, depending on if it's Holyoke and it's a quick, boo-boo, drop them off the hour and we leave, and the report isn't significantly long. We can be out of there, and the run can be 45 minutes. But the hour has pretty much been where we are for the average. But again, that's a flexible hour.
And this is something, I remember you talking about this last year too, was trying to get the right department paying the right percentage.
Yes, exactly. So we've done a lot of good. We've made some forward movement and being able to, this is only going to be my true second or third budget, and so I'm still trying to track the past trends and put money where it belongs to.
Yeah, that's why when I want to look at the budget and the actual for that year, to see if it went over or under.
Yep.
And then the budget and actual for the next year, then,
Absolutely, I totally understand. Just know that a lot of the changes you're going to see is because I'm starting to see where the money really does belong to.
you're getting the trend, so you can.
Yes, exactly.
Right, because I remember it being a thing where a lot of stuff was on, like, the fire side, and actually it wasn't, it should have been the ambulance side.
Exactly,
Yeah,
yep.
I remember that.
Yeah, I remember some of it.
Yeah.
It's just hard, to picture there's that much firework when most of the day-to-day work seems to be doing calls.
Well, again, that's a misperception, just because of how many runs, and actually, let me point this out to you, as something that I ran today that actually made me a little nervous. I ran the numbers for January for this year and for last year, for both fire and EMS, okay? In the month of January this year, we've done 57 EMS calls. Last year, we did 60. We're pretty much right on par, okay? When I ran the fire numbers, last year, we had 26 fire-related calls in the month of January. We're on February 3rd today, and we're at 69. We're seeing a significant increase in fire calls, and I am trying to track that. I only want you to understand that I don't want you to get hooked up on how many calls we do and trying to base the wages on calls, because it's not based on calls. It's how much time they spend doing those particular duties.
Yeah, it's like, I can understand what you're saying when the firehouse is open during the day. But at nighttime, are you using the same split?
Yep.
And at nighttime, they're just on call, and there's nobody coming in for permits, nobody coming in. That seems more like a 50-50 split at night.
So, well, here's the reason,
Okay.
okay? First of all, when we say it's closed, the full-timers, when they work the overnight, they're not allowed to shut that front door till 10 o'clock. So we're open until 10 o'clock for public to walk in and do business.
I didn't know that.
Okay, well, I've put it out there. They're available to come in till 10 o'clock at night. Regardless, at night, yes, the full-timer that's in there may primarily be there to respond to EMS calls, but the way we operate is we take the first situation that's in front of us and deal with it. So if we have a fire call, that full-timer and station medic is going out on that fire call.
Understandable.
And if we determine the need, we'll tone out for coverage for the ambulance. Because I want to deal with the situation that's in front of me first.
That's completely understandable.
Yeah, just, and based on the numbers you said for fire, almost tripled from last year.
Yeah, it's I think it was 63% or something. It's kind of concerning right now, but that's another story.
I say, I understand the numbers for the day, but I don't understand for the same percentage of nights. But if that's the way you're doing it, that's the way you're doing it.
Well, I'll tell you what, why don't we have the chief maybe take a 2-month period of time at some point and run the night numbers
Yeah.
and see what it is.
Yeah, because I mean, when you just, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, we can look at that
Yeah.
and then just see.
I just want, the money total is not gonna change.
Right.
It's just gonna be what percentage is
Which,
on
is
it.
it coming out of the left pocket or the right pocket?
That's correct.
That's all you're trying to do.
That's all I'm trying to do. And you
You
know
don't want to
me.
walk on a limb.
Yeah, and you know me. When I talk a department budget, I include healthcare, I include retirement, I include everything.
But that'll give you an idea, a 2-month
Yeah.
period of time. Yeah, and just see what comes.
I understand what you're saying about the burning permits and all that stuff. And no, I mean, if they do a CPR class, I mean, they do a CPR class. I understand that. But there are more requirements. They have to do inspections of the building.
Or
For-
someone may bring their child in and they want to tour the vehicles and look at the vehicles and, you know, it's.
Well, I'm thinking of them
relations
doing
stuff.
their regular jobs as far as checking each building for the fire
To
detectors.
go
and
back
all
to
that.
what the chief said too, you had 69 calls,
Yeah.
67 calls, from, 20 plus last year to this
Right.
year. I mean, that's not saying those are all happening during the day. Some of those, probably a majority of those are happening, I think, more at night when people are home.
Without the data, I couldn't tell you. We have to move along, chief, because
Okay.
we're only got like,
No problem, I'm just trying to provide you the information as it comes available if you want it.
and as far as the wages
I'm
for.
curious, Chief,
Director?
yeah, I'm curious to see the number.
So, for EMS calls, the day of the week doesn't matter. We seem to be pretty much, whatever days seems to be all the same. For call hours, intersects, and incident time hour. Some of the top times for calls tends to be 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 1800 or 6 o'clock, thank you, 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and midnight. And then there's some random day ones in their mornings, 8 o'clock.
So 4 out of 5 of your top times are after 4 o'clock, pretty much.
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah. Just based on what it says, 4, 7, 9, midnight.
Yeah, and you know, then there's times of the day that you wouldn't really expect calls anyway. 4 o'clock in the morning and 1 o'clock in the morning tend to be our slowest times.
Right, people aren't active then.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just EMS, that's,
And the overall ambulance budget went up 8%.
yes, again, a lot of that was because of the one-time purchase items that I was requesting that we really need.
And when you're saying on wages, does that include the proposed increase or not? Or is that something that's gonna have to be added every?
No, we are basing this on the anticipation of the contract.
Okay, that's what I was asking. So I didn't know if there's something that was gonna come up later.
Nope, we actually, we worked that one pretty good.
Okay. Ready to move on to fire? 'Cause we're
Fire,
gonna-
okay, I'd like to do the same thing and start right down at,
I don't think we're gonna have time.
Do you have any questions on fire?
yeah, let's do it that way.
My biggest questions on fire
Yep,
is the computer software 255% increase.
okay. The reason for that, again, goes back to one-time installs. So if you recall, last year, we added the new program for our incident reports as well as being able to do our statistical analysis. Okay, this is just that final module installation for it to make us essentially whole to where we want to be.
Okay, and my concern, looking at that, is when I looked at the computer like you said, the computer software, you're not asking any money for computer hardware. So my automatic question is the hardware and the network infrastructure we have in place, will it meet the software requirements?
Yes, however, I will put out that we do have a line item right above it, computers.
Yes.
That's where we get the hardware. We try to, first of all, we try to rotate our computers out because they're just gonna, over time, become obsolete. But when we add new equipment like this, I mean, there are gonna be times that we're gonna need to purchase things. But that goes under
A different,
a different line item, and we're not anticipating an increase or
right,
need
that's,
for an increase.
that's zero,
Correct,
no budget for new computers for the year.
correct.
And that's why I was wondering if this software, if our current infrastructure, both network and hardware computers, is gonna be compatible, or that's something we have to look at.
Nope, it's gonna be compatible. Again, it's a module. There may be something that will fall under technology stuff and whatnot, but that'd be under the ambulance, because it may be centric to the ambulance, because it's a program that,
Software upgrade.
Jay, just so you understand, the module that he's talking about ties in with the current software being operated by the police department on their server. That's all it's doing, is it's enhancing that software there so it can take care of the fire department reporting requirements. That's all it is. Okay, it's basically the IMAS system on the police server. And what the chief had to do was, he was in touch with the company that writes the IMAS program so that he could utilize the IMAS software for fire-related purposes.
The basic reason why I'm asking the question is I know a few years ago, we bought some software, was it $100,000 for the town? And it's never been used?
No, it wasn't 100,000.
What was it? The one with the school when I was,
It's only been 20,000.
oh, I thought it was more than that. I thought it
It's
was
only 20,000, and then what it
Okay.
is we have to work
incorporated.
with them to put together a single accounting structure.
And give people certain permissions and privileges in each one.
Yes,
And that's why I was concerned.
it's not, it hasn't been $100,000.
Mine was stuck in my
The
way.
school keeps saying it's a six-digit purchase. and
That's
they're wrong.
correct.
And they're wrong. It was not a six-digit
Okay,
purchase.
well, see, you can see where I get my numbers from by
That's
listening.
okay. You can listen all you want, but I'll tell you right now, it was not a six-digit purchase.
Okay, because I know when we meet with them, they said it was a
And they
hundred thousand.
always say that, and I just don't say a word, do I?
No, that's why I thought it was 100,000, because nobody said a word.
Because it's not worthwhile to get into an argument with people at certain points.
Okay. And it's dues up 24%?
Okay, so, some of these dues are ones that we need to belong to, whether it's a county requirement or, like the Western Mass, Fire Prevention Association. There's associations that we need to belong to in order to either get credits for our people through training or to be part of a region for resources. Okay, so we have to have these. The reason for the increase, specifically, it's for an NFPA subscription, so that we can, instead of buying the NFPA books as they come out, which it'd be substantially more expensive than that if we would try to maintain all of the hardcover books or softcover books. What this does is this subscription will allow us to get access to them online with full ability to print the ones that we need to print or not print, and it'll be a whole lot cheaper than trying to buy the books. So that's a cost-saving measure that's going to cost money, but will save us down the line.
Okay, trying to be proactive.
Exactly.
But without hearing that, how would I know that?
Oh, right.
That's why he's here.
That's right. And that's why I asked the question, what is that larger amount in percentage change? We've already talked about the wages, it's gonna be the same on the fire as the ambulance,
Mm-hmm.
so. You got anything else, Glenn?
No, well, good.
Yep, do David.
Okay,
Do David.
and then we'll just start,
And then
with-
we'll just start the other meeting late.
that's why I was gonna, okay,
Okay.
thank you. Now, up to the highway department.
Thank you, chief. Taking my stuff.
Oh, that, am I, so I was just,
All right.
hey, I'm here for you.
Don't forget your water bottle.
More like a water jug, but yeah.
Try to be brief here. Chris and I went over most of this. However, there's a few things that have come up since Chris and I sat down. One, that'll affect the budget. One, US DOT just changed the drug testing, and they're requiring doubling the amount of test from 25% of the pool per year to 50%. So that's gonna double our frequency that our guys get called as well. That was a surprise. It just came in with no warning the last few weeks. Another big item is paint and road marking expenses. I'm not sure what that's gonna happen. I don't know if Chris heard about that. One of the largest contractors in the state
Been disbarred.
been disbarred by Mass DOT. The other contractor, I don't think can even handle all the work. From the scuttlebutt I'm getting from all the DPW directors around the state, they're all getting nervous. And what I intend to do this year is get line painting done very early in the spring, if we can get it done. At least the yellow lines, because if we waited till later in the summer, we probably won't even get on the list. And there'll be no painting done on any of the lines. Until this shakes out and other contractors fill the void. I don't know what's gonna happen, and I suspect that you'll see our budgets go through the roof because the only contractor is now a monopoly, and they're not gonna have even the ability to handle all the work that's
Are you
asked
allowed
of
to
them.
use out-of-state contractors? I'm just asking a question.
One of these contractors is multi-state. I
Okay.
mean, and that's one of the ones that's bought. So that's two items. One other item is police details. I'm well into my budget this year, probably 3/4 of it through there, and we haven't even started catch basin cleaning, and I'm not billing any of the tree work. We've had details almost for the last month and a half since Christmas. We've been working almost every day. That's being billed to the tree article that we got. funds.
$100,000.
Yes. So I'm a little nervous about that. After seeing what we've expended to date on details, I don't know if you want to change it, if you leave it the same, and we'll shake it out after we get through the whole year. But I just wanted to bring that up as well.
Well, I think the best thing for the people that actually watch this out there, and for us to understand, is what percentage is the trees done now, and that'll give us a percentage to expect a more expense that is not even budgeted yet.
We have been working with
Northern
the
Tree.
Northern Tree, and we have been far exceeding my expectations of how many trees we're putting down a day.
But the people, I think, have to understand, Northern Tree is just putting them down. Our highway department is
We're
picking
cleaning
them up.
picking them
So
up,
they're not doing the
cleaning it up.
complete job.
Yes.
Okay.
We're averaging anywhere from 8 to up to 20 trees a day that we're putting on the ground. When Lewis Tree is working for National Grid, they're lucky if they get 1 tree a day. So that's the difference with us working with Northern.
David, you identified about 600 trees, dead trees.
There's over 630 right now
I'm just
that
saying, you
are
identified
marked.
about 600 dead trees, and you've taken down about 300.
I think we're closer to 400 right now.
Okay, so
Wow.
you're at 2/3 of the way right now,
Mm-hmm.
okay? But those numbers are gonna continue to grow as he finds more and more.
Everywhere we
That's
go, we find
understandable.
more.
Just so you know,
That's
that gives you a quick
understandable,
ballpark of where he's at.
Yeah.
Because it's an estimate when they go out there to look and see what condition the trees in. But just so the people, if they're watching this, understand, the trees we're talking about are over utility lines. We're not just going out scavenging looking for trees. These-
Or threatening the roads.
That's right.
If it's branches that are gonna fall on the road that we'll have to pick up, that could threaten the car,
Right.
we're taking it as we go by.
It's a safety issue.
Correct.
I mean, we're just not taking trees down for the sake.
No, these are all mostly oaks that were damaged by the gypsy moss,
There's still gonna be a lot of dead trees left even after we're finished.
but we're finding a lot of dead ash trees from emerald ash borer as well, and they will kill every ash tree in town. That, the state knows about it, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, I know, we try, but when we do this, I try to make it clear for the people watching on the TV. And that, so your road
I'll
is,
put another 100,000 if I can, aside for tree removal again. That 100,000 has gone a long way.
Yes, it has.
In addressing the issue.
and April and June for this fiscal year, the state is putting $10 million in the pot for the MVP for both of them. The question is, do we want to put something in there for them? We haven't had too much good experience with that so far, but
I would.
I would apply anyways.
I would to try and start a tree replacement program.
I agree. That's what I'm going for.
And if a resident is upset with the trees that were taken down in front of their property,
Mhm.
we purchase trees that they can plant on their property if they so desire to replace the trees that we took down. I
And
don't want to put them on the right of way again, because all we're doing is creating a problem.
Get a problem on the road
Another
again.
10, 15 years down the
Right.
line for us.
a lot of people don't understand the easements of the roads on how far they actually go into somebody else's property.
Right. So I would look at doing a program, and if a homeowner wants one, we'll bring it in and have it planted for free for them.
what I like to put forth when we do that, we have some areas that a lot of stormwater gathers. There are some trees that'll drink more water than others. Try to put some of those trees there to eliminate that problem. And that's a natural-based solution, which is score high on MVP. That's all I'm saying with that. To get something out of it. But it's gonna be 10 million on the April and another 10 million in June. And if you have any culverts or anything else like that, you can start planning for and looking for it. Because if you don't put in for it, you definitely won't get it. You got anything else?
The only other big area that is a concern on the, little bit on the horizon is succession planning for our department. I mean, I've got almost 3/4 of our department that's approaching retirement age and are gonna end up leaving it very close to the same time. And all the licenses and like myself and Russ are gonna walk out the door close to the same time probably. You just lost 2 CDLA licenses, you just lost 2 wastewater collection system licensed people. We have to start planning for the future, and right now, we can't even, the last position, we couldn't even hire somebody with the licenses. We're training somebody, can't even get somebody with a Class B license that'll work for what we're willing to pay right now. So I think we gotta start upping the salaries. $15, $16 is not a living wage, and I talked to all the other DPWs, even in the hill towns. You're not gonna find a good truck driver for less than $24 an hour now.
Is there a way that you could, in your position where you are, get from the towns around us, maybe from PVPC, the 43 different towns they use, get an average of what it's cost for a position?
I mean, we could do that. I mean, Personnel Board was working on that a while ago, but the problem's become more acute with the labor market right now in the last couple of years.
Right.
Anybody that wants a job has a job.
That's right.
And,
Yeah.
That's one big thing too, we talk about that, as far as people with Class B licenses, a lot of people are looking for them, so they're paying more and more money.
right.
Especially if private companies were to say,
And we can't compete with that. But I think long-term, I mean, over the next couple of years, we gotta start planning for this, because if we don't, the town's gonna be in a world of hurt if 3/4 of the department retires very close to the same time.
And one thing that we could hire somebody like Dave is a civil engineer. But when we hire that new person, they're not gonna know one of our bylaws. And it's gonna take them a while, so I think we need a lead person as a person to go between the current group and the next group.
well, I can see, I would more towards when Dave decides to retire, we get a notification as retiring, and then at that time, we look at replacing him, maybe 6 months out, 9 months out, or something like that, so you can't have a transition from a new person
I
coming
have
in.
no problem with that
But
either.
I'm not looking to put someone on for a couple of years and pay a salary.
I think you have to though, because you're not gonna hire somebody like a truck driver that knows how to build roads. They're gonna have to go through several years of, this is what we do, this is our process, learn the ins and outs of Storm Phase 2 regulations.
But there's still some people in the department, not everybody's leaving at the same time, so I'm more or less talking like your position is head of the
There's a
department.
truck, there's gonna be one driver maybe, or two, and they're not foremen. Again, it's something we've gotta start thinking about and planning for.
Well, it'd be hard to, pay someone $50,000-$60,000 a year for 3 years just
Oh, I think we
to
should
take over.
consider a position like that for the future, just to stay, not just for,
I think you should have a foreman in the department anyway. I mean, we had a foreman in 2001, and I was convinced to let him go for a short time, and it's never been replaced in 19 years now, and frankly, I think it's short-sighted.
But you're not talking about your replacement, you're talking about.
A foreman.
Addition.
In addition, you're gonna have
Something different.
You're gonna have a very hard time finding a civil engineer or an engineer that can do the engineering side that has CDL licenses, that has hoisting licenses. It's a very limited pool that have the mix.
Yeah.
It's because I came from a construction background and worked in construction that I was exposed to a lot of different areas and have a lot of different licenses, but most people with an engineering degree are not gonna have those licenses to go with it. So I'm,
Something to look at then.
yeah, I
discuss.
think it's something that Chris and I should be sitting down and working on for the future, because I was talking to some of the other guys in our department and just trying to get a feel from when they're gonna go, but it's, a couple years are gonna go by real fast, and
No, you're right.
you'll have a big,
Yeah, we have the
Void.
same problem with Kathy Kelly Regan and Chris Martin.
yep,
All our people will be leaving about the same time.
something to,
Kathy's elected.
something to plan for.
What was that?
Kathy's elected.
There's
Right.
the knowledge base that walks
It's
up.
the knowledge base.
I understand it, but it's elected position though, it's hard to.
Oh, so is the tax collector for that matter. too.
Yeah.
Any other specific questions on the budget? I mean,
No, I just see that the roads are going up by 29%. So do we have more bad roads right now than we did before, or that it's just getting to the point? Or is just the cost
We made
going
an
up?
adjustment because that's been underfunded for the last 5 to 6 years.
Okay,
And I told David on this budget, let's start catching up to what we really need.
Okay.
To maintain our roads.
but when I see a 29% increase,
But I will take the hit on that one,
there's no
Jay,
hit, it's just knowledge.
Because, like I said, it's been underfunded for
Yeah.
the last 5 to 6 years
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
that I know of. Okay, chapter 90 got cut by 100,000,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100 million.
yeah, we were
That hit
pushing
us.
for 300 million, and that's even not enough. And
That hit
we're only
us,
getting
and
200.
I'm just saying, it's,
That was a
Divvy
couple
up.
years ago, they cut too.
now we
Yeah.
need to turn around and start putting money aside to take care of our own roads, because the state isn't gonna do
And
it.
it's just gonna get worse.
Yes.
At some point you have to do that, because if not, a year from now, they're just gonna be
It
in a worse
just keeps
condition.
falling apart,
Right, it's
yeah.
gonna cost you more.
Right, but when I see the numbers, I'm just asking the reason why. It's nothing that's derogatory, it's
No, I'm
why.
not saying that,
that.
but I'm saying I'm the one who told him to increase it by that much.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that, now that somebody's explained to me the reason why.
Any other questions?
No, I think we're done with the contract. Do you want us to adjourn this one, take a short recess,
Yep,
and then we'll start the other one?
yep.
You want to do a motion to adjourn our first one about 5 o'clock? Glenn?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Okay, I will second Glenn's motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Got 2 ayes and 1